brothers and sisters, listen to the words of the Apostle Paul to the Philippians. Do nothing out of selfishness or out of vainglory. Rather humbly regard others as more important than yourselves, each looking out not for his own interests, but also everyone for those of others. Almighty and eternal God, you have revealed your glory to all nations. God of power and might, wisdom and justice, through your authority is rightly administered, laws are enacted, and judgment is decreed. Let the light of your divine wisdom direct the deliberations of this council, and shine forth in all the proceedings and laws framed for our rule and governments. May they seek to preserve peace, promote happiness, and continue to bring us the blessings of liberty and equality. We likewise commend to your unbounded mercy all citizens of the United States, that we may be blessed in the knowledge and sanctified in the observance of your holy law. May we be preserved in union and that peace which the world cannot give. And after enjoying the blessings of this life, be admitted to those which are eternal. We pray to you who are Lord and God forever and ever.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we need to call the roll?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Down.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Okay. Next on our agenda is public comments. We will allow speakers to approach the council on any topic. However, once a topic is opened, we'll only have 6 speakers, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. And remember, please, to fill out a speaker card. Okay. Anyone for public comments?
Good evening, Council. I am Chet Boki. I've made my decision to come up here tonight because I see the smoking issue is rearing its ugly head. You know, when people are elected, they're given certain powers, and sometimes they can probably abuse those powers, knowingly or unknowingly, when they keep going for one thing that keeps being beat down one way or the other. I'm a registered Republican. I believe most, if not all of you are, and supposedly we have principles of less government, less intrusion, and as Father said, liberty for all. This isn't a new road. We've come over this road many times trying to reintroduce bills anti-smoking. I think this is an attack on free enterprise, personal freedoms, businesses, and interstate commerce. I think we need to limit the number of times we can keep being told no. In other words, you all introduce, and the public says no one way or the other. You know, recently we had St. Charles County vote down an unbelievable tax. I don't know, it's 264% on the, quote, cheap cigarettes as another attack on smokers. Smokers and non-smokers alike, I'm quite sure, voted that one down. I don't do business anymore whatsoever. I vote my wallet. I don't go to St. Louis, Lake St. Louis. I don't go to O'Fallon, Missouri. Each community, I guess, can do what they want to do, but, you know, so far the federal government, the state of Missouri has not outlawed the way you all, some of you all would like to, infringe on freedoms and liberties. Of course, we got the cash cow. Nobody wants to touch the casino. We would rather be a little bit discriminatory, I guess, how we pick and choose. Personally, I'm getting a little tired of it. I think somebody ought to, you know, some of you are new on their council, and I've seen how you've looked at things in the past, and I think you're more moderate and sensible than some other people. You know, is there a public outcry, no smoking in any businesses? You know, a business establishes themselves, and somebody wants to get in there and go, oh, now we're going to tell you what to do. Well, gentlemen, it won't stop there. Should this ever pass, it'll be, well, I see a kid in the car and somebody's smoking in there. Well, Fallon just recently introduced and pulled it on amendment, 150 feet of a door. So is this where we really want to go with stuff like this? Will they go to your door and say, oh, you're smoking in that house with a child in the house? And that may sound unreasonable to some, but it may sound like an invasion of privacy to me. And this is more important than anti-smoking, is where it will wind up at if we keep allowing over and over. You know, I was a legislator myself one time. I understand legislation on the state level. Some of you, I think, are taking the good opinion, and I've heard your comments in the newspaper, read them. Some people just don't seem to get it. I know we're debating this down in the city of St. Charles, and it's a very touchy issue because you got VFW, and you have all kinds of different situations.
Sir, can I ask you to wrap it up, the 3 minutes?
I thank you for your time, and I hope you consider this. I know it's going to be coming up again at some point. Thank you for hearing me.
Okay. Is there any other comments on the smoking issue? Okay, seeing none, any other topics?
Good evening, members of the council. A.C. Dienoff, county resident. I'd like to first take the opportunity, pending confirmation of the county council, I'd like to welcome the new county nominee for the county health department director, Julie Eckstein. I wish her great success in running the environment and the health department. And I miss Mr. Copley dearly, but I'm sure that she'll fill his shoes wisely and for the betterment of the county. Two items that I'd like to bring to your attention, and I'm glad that the Parks and Recreation Department Director is here this evening so she can hear my comments. I've been trying to work with staff on the general maintenance of two parks in our county. The first one that comes to mind is Quail Ridge Park, and this was before the rains, the recent 10 days. There's a major problem with the crew that does the maintenance with grass, where the grass is taller than the dogs that use the dog park in Quail Ridge Park. The general maintenance of the park is, in my opinion, subpar, and when we're paying a lot of tax dollars for our sales tax, I think that we deserve better service. There's a lot of weeds in the dog park that is bad for the environment and bad for the dogs that use that on a daily basis. And some of the handles are not being, the handles to the doorways of the fences. I've tried working with staff in the Parks Department for the last 2 years to get those corrected, and it still seems that a lot of people are having a lot of difficulty, and some of them are broken. So I would ask the director if she could look into that, and let's get those fixed this year. It's a really nice park, but we need to maintain what we have before we start buying new parks and more parks. We have to learn to maintain and give the level of service to the people that use that on a daily basis. The next item that I've spoken to the director and assistant deputy director about is Bremelsick Park, the dog park in particular. It's a small pond, if most of you haven't been out to that site. It's at Wilson Road off of Double D. And it's a concentrated area, and there's a lot of pet waste and pet runoff, and a lot of the dogs swim, and unfortunately they use the restroom at the same time. There's been a lot of reports, and I've talked to my vet in particular at North Main Animal Hospital, where there's been sick dogs, there's been Giardia found in the water, and there's vets in the Central County area that report a lot of problems with intestinal problems and digestive problems of dogs. And they all come linked to the same thing, is they all were at the dog park at Bremelsick Park in the pond. And so I had asked the director over 2 years ago that we test this pond either on a weekly or monthly basis, and it came back that there's no requirement by the Department of Natural Resources at the state level. Well, county council members, we're a home rule county charter. We run our own ship here. Our residents deserve first-class public services, and I really believe that the county residents and the people who use that dog park and their dogs need to know, and it needs to be posted at that pond to the public of what the quality of water is in that pond. So the resident has the opportunity to either use the pond at their own risk or not use the pond. And I think that we need to test it for intestinal part, and we could work with our health department and do it for free in-house. But these dogs keep getting sick, and these vets keep complaining. And I went to the parks director, and I still haven't had any action. And I think that we need to post it, and we need to give our residents fair, ample warning, and we need to provide public safety, health, and welfare before, to give the owner of that dog before they use that pond. Thank you for hearing my comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the oral report from the county executive.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield my time to Betty. There she is. She's going to talk a little bit about Brommelsick.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the council. We appreciate this opportunity. I wanted to cover with you a little bit tonight about Brommelsick Park and what we are planning to do with a final phase of development. And with me is Gary Perkins, who is with the Planning Design Studio. They had been charged on this final phase to do the engineering design and get it ready for construction bid documents so that we can go out for construction here. I wanted just to take 1 minute here and do a very brief overview of the Parks Department and how we started. It came about in 1997, and there was an open space vision that was developed. And I would like for you just to listen to this. The vision for the St. Charles County Parks and Recreation Department will be to provide county residents with regional parks and recreation facilities that will enhance the historical and natural environmental heritage, promote the high quality of life that exists in the rural and urban areas, resolve to meet the growing demand for preservation of open space, encourage tourism, and actively seek coordination with St. Charles County municipalities in order to meet the needs for delivery of recreation facilities and services that nurture healthy lifestyles for people who live, visit, and enjoy our county. It went to a public vote and was a very successful passage, and thus the county regional park system was begun. It has a dedicated fund that's based on a use tax that is for acquisition and development of parkland. We try very hard to encourage passive recreation in these park areas so that we don't duplicate city services. The municipalities do a lot of recreation facilities in particular that are very, very good, but we don't duplicate those, so you don't see the swimming pools and ball fields and things like that. We leave that to the municipalities. We try and look at larger park areas, larger green space, preservation, and we offer things then that the municipalities don't have the room to offer, like the camping and fishing and extensive trails. We pay as we go. We are not in debt whatsoever. We have no bonds outstanding, anything like that. And we do the work in phases because we are paying as we go. A half of our acreage is either totally or partially donated. So of our 15 park sites, half of them have either been partially or totally donated. We do have life estates in association with some of those park areas, and what that enabled us to do was to be able to offer to individuals the opportunity to preserve their lands for use as a future park, but it allowed them to live there. So again, we have to be patient, but that is why a lot of our development does happen in phases. And we term those parks that are dealing with life estates as parks in reserve for the future. We currently hold 2,958 acres as parkland and have opened 10 parks to the public of this region in the last 12 years. One of the parks that we are looking now to continue on with development is Brommelsick Park, and Brommelsick Park was a life estate situation. Jack Brommelsick had a cattle operation there, he and his wife Betty, for many years. They were stellar advocates for soil conservation and good farm practices, and so that is a portion of what we're going to be telling the story of as well. We went ahead and developed several early phases at Brommelsick to get the public out into the parts that we could that weren't part of his life estate. And so at this point, one of the things that we have out there are certainly trails. We have over 7 miles of multi-use trails. And this park is rather unique because it is one of the parks that we have equestrian use as well as part of those multi-use. Mountain biking, hiking, and trail running are also components that are part of that. We also have a very unique site, the astronomy site that's out off of Schwede Road, right at the intersection of Schwede and Wilson. And this is the only viewing area of this kind in this region. And to date, again, we have it as a passive use. We do not staff it, but it is available to the public 24/7, 365 days a year. And we have a volunteer organization that comes out every Friday, weather permitting, and they hold the programs there. So they entertained 3,000 people that came to the Friday night events last year. We also have shelters, of course, that are available, and people use those for picnicking and such. And we do have the dog park. That is the second dog park that was developed in the county park system, the first one being at Quail Ridge, and the second here at Brommelsick. It is a very popular dog park, and in fact, we do have plans to expand it this year because it is used very, very well, very highly used. It does have a small pond in it, which the water dogs do enjoy, and we have checked carefully all the way with the University of Missouri toxicologist, with their vet schools, and there are no qualifying tests that can be done. And so at this point, we look at having a very popular but a well-used area, and we will expand that in this next summer.
Right. How many volunteers you got at Brommelsick Park, do you know?
Oh gosh, it depends on the project. We've had as many as several hundred scouts come out for tree planting, that sort of thing. Our astronomy group, it's averages about 40 that are in that particular group. But the trail folks, the people that come out to work on the natural surface trails, that probably ranges on the average of about 50. We have mountain bike clubs as well as individuals that come out to work on those trails.
Yeah, it's a great park.
Yeah. The other amenity that we have out there currently is the Wilson Road Fishing Lake. It's fully stocked. It's a little under 3 acres, and there's a paved trail that's around that. And again, well used off of the Wilson Road area. And then Betty's Lake, and it's B-E-T-T-Y, it's not B-E-T-T-I-E. Jack and Betty Brommelsick lived here, had the 13-acre lake behind their home, and we renovated that this past summer. With all the rains that we've had, it is full, so it is in good shape. The Phase 3 development that will be commencing essentially encompasses a great deal of Jack's life estate area, but it will be headlined by a real good, safe access off of Highway DD. We're working, and our engineers are working with MoDOT to facilitate a turn lane there at the entrance, so it'll be much safer. And that will bring you into the park. Right now, this is the construction road that was put in for the lake, but that will be then used to facilitate the actual entrance. The existing home that's there in the park, this was Jack and Betty Brommelsick's home that they built, and it is a beautiful structure. We had it assessed structurally, and it is very sound. The setting that it's in, it's a lovely addition to the park area. It's 1 story, And so as far as ADA accessibility, it will be very, very good to adapt to that. It does overlook the 13-acre lake, and we anticipate adding a back patio here on this to, again, and be able to allow public to rent the facility. We anticipate having 2 meeting rooms in this facility, as well as telling the story of the Bromelsick farm history for the county there, and then also a satellite ranger office. This is just a rendering, but it shows you what we call a group shelter that will be at the south end of the park area. This is similar to what is at Quail Ridge. It accommodates a larger number of people. We found that that was very, very popular at Quail Ridge. We have a lot of companies that come out, large family groups, as well as even weddings that use it. So it's actually a double shelter that's there. It's on a high point of the park, and it overlooks a vista that will be very, very lovely. The other addition that we'll be putting in is a lakeside pavilion that will be adjacent to that 13-acre lake. And this one has a very unique setting as well, because very close to that area there's a natural spring that's on site. We have the lake setting right there. There'll be prairie area that's adjacent, as well as the forest area. So for day use in particular, we're getting a lot of interest from school groups coming out to our parks, and they're looking for unique areas that they can do their biology studies, their natural resource studies. So for day use, this is what we're pinpointing this area for, because of the 4 ecosystems that are right there. But then it obviously is available for rental as well for picnics. This last slide is just to show you an overview of Bromelsick Park. It's been an interesting challenge because the county roads do dissect it. At the front of the, if we can get this to work, there we go. This is DD. And here will be the main park entrance. This is Jack's house. And just so you can get a better picture, this whole area was Jack's life estate. He continued to run cattle after we had made the purchase. So that's why we really couldn't get to this part of the park. But these areas here, this is the Wilson Road Lake, this is the off-leash area, the astronomy area is right here. Our little maintenance barn is currently right here. And then this area is what we will do in-house. We intend to have a farm implement display with a trail through it. It will have interpretive signs, and so again be a static area that we won't have to staff. But that will complete that farm education area up here. The main part of what all of this is, that's part of this final phase, is the road in. Here's the group area. Here's the lakeside shelter. This road carries over and connects. This is the current park area over here. We do have to have a bridge right there across Kraut Run Creek. So there will be a lot of utilities, water, electricity, wastewater treatment, a lot of things that aren't really exciting, but you've got to have them. And so that will be the main components of this part of the construction. We're looking forward to going out here for bid right here in the early part of May, and think we'll have a real good project for a lot of local contractors for the summer-fall period, and keeping people busy with that. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions anybody has. Joe?
So that's great. That's a very exciting park. Good
Yes.
job, Betty. On Duke Road Park, how are we coming on that? Didn't we just finish the Hayes House?
We finished the exterior of it, and we're going to be ready to do the interior to get that renovated. And we are currently, we just received back the RFPs for design firms to to do the
the ins-
engineering for the rest of that park. So that'll be going out later this year.
Okay, so next year it'll be a start on that one, probably?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yes. Joe?
Betty, a couple of years ago, I hiked down Jack's driveway and looked at that house. It was pretty rough a couple of years ago. I mean, that house doesn't have a lot of historical value. Do you think that's going to be a money pit, or you think that thing's going to be fixable? Because it looked, you know, I don't think it'd been lived in for a lot of years, 5-10 years.
About 5 years.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, Gary, you all had it assessed. It's very sound. It's going to take some fix-up in terms of making restrooms, of course, accessible and that sort of thing. But yes, it's very doable.
You think you
That
can
was-
fix it cheaper than you can build a new one?
I sure do.
Okay.
That was also part of when we sat in his living room talking to him, that was what he wanted us to do too, though. So
Fix
it's
the old house up.
kind of the deal, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Betty. We
Thank you
appreciate it.
very
Very, very
much.
proud of our parks.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, next is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I do, I have one. If we could move the Board of Zoning adjustment, pull that off of the consent agenda?
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, now I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
So moved.
Oh, is there, John, on the casualty insurance, did you want to pull
There
that
was
off?
some, I'd like to pull that off too, just to
Sure.
get some.
Okay, let's do that first. Just need a motion to remove the casualty insurance.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we'll go back to a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, first of all, you want to take care of your,
Yes, on Jerry Prinster should be listed as Gerald Prinster, so it should be Gerard Prinster, as opposed to Gerard, as opposed to Gerald.
is that correct? Yes, okay, so it was just a misprint in the, the consent agenda, so we just need to make that change. Okay. Any questions there? Okay, all right. Then we can go ahead to yours, John.
Okay, it was just on the property casualty and insurance renewal. I just want to see, is this something that's different than we had in the past? Is it something that we're rushing into? Is it something we have to do right away? Is it just...
Ed, can you speak to the question of what's different?
Primary difference is this year. Well, first of all, yes, we do have to do it right away. The renewal date is May 1st, and this was not to try and blindside the council, but we had a heck of a time trying to get this renewal in place. We were all ready to come 2 weeks ago, and at the last minute, we came across a company that wanted to provide a lot better flood coverage than the incumbent carrier that we have now. They wanted to, in essence, reduce our $30 million in flood coverage down to $2 million, and it just wasn't going to work. So, and another company, Lexington Insurance Company, which is part of the AIG group, came along and gave us $10 million in flood coverage. Excuse me, they gave us $30 million overall in flood coverage, but then they layered it so that $10 million is applicable to the arena and the Hayes House, and there's another $10 million that's available for the airport, the sign shop, and the juvenile. Now, that is a little bit tricky for those three, because the way they structured it on us is that the deductible is 5% of the total value or $1 million, whichever is greater. So before that, we had just had a straight deductible, but this now they want this mathematical equation in there, if you will. And then the rest of the properties around the county are still at 100,000 as they were prior to this. But again, most of those we have little or no worry of it. If what gets up here, we'll have more worries than an insurance program. But those other two are those 5 buildings: the arena, the Hayes House, the airport, and sign shop and juvenile. They could present a problem in that we only have, or we can only get $10 million for combiner in the aggregate for the arena and the Hayes House. And similarly, we can only get 10 million for the juvenile airport and sign shop. So we have 10 million there, 10 million there, but it does not stack up to putting 30 million on top of all the rest of the properties. The total flood package is 30 million bucks, and we can only spend or claim 10 million on the arena and the Hayes House, and another 10 million if we need to on the juvenile, the airport, and the sign shop. So that's really a big change to what it was. Prior to this, we, in essence, had a straight deductible of 100,000 and for everything except the arena, which was 500.
So do we have to just live with this until the next period comes and we renegotiate something else?
Well, if we can. We had 8 companies, John, that turned us down on flood insurance, period, paragraph, and said, thank you, no thank you. We don't want to talk to you. I mean, that's how tight this market has become. And
so there's not much negotiating if nobody wants to do it?
No.
Okay.
Yes, sure.
I've got 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
Is the county not eligible for National Head flood insurance, I guess, is question number 1. And number 2 is I'm aware about the airport being prone to flooding because I spent the weekend before last moving everything out of a hangar there. But is the arena, and I understand where Hayes House is kind of low, but the family arena and juvenile and that, are those things anywhere close to the flood? They're well above the floodplain, aren't they?
The arena and the juvenile facility,
yes, sir.
They are right smack in the middle of the flood.
But it would take, I'm sure they're well built above 500-year flood elevations, aren't they?
No.
No.
You got the juvenile, there's a creek right behind juvenile, for one, and you have that entire parking lot. I agree with you, the building in some sections of the arena is up 30 or 40 feet maybe, but then if you come around the corner where the loading dock is and the front entrance, you're right level with that parking lot.
Okay, but you couldn't, I thought under the National Health Insurance Flood Program, everybody could get flood insurance, but that doesn't apply to county.
We do have a national flood insurance program in place at both of these, both the juvenile and the arena, but that's $1 million. And you have to split it 500 to your building and 500 your contents.
So the national program tops out at $1 million.
Right. We looked at it for the airport several years ago, and they wanted us or they said we had to, take a separate policy, if you will, for each of the buildings out there. We couldn't package it into one location.
The airport doesn't have near as much stuff. I mean, it's a big mess for Tracy when the flood comes, but it doesn't have the metal buildings and the concrete hangars or concrete floors don't get hurt. But that family arena, that could be a big deal.
The what, sir?
That family arena, if that flooded, with all the AV, all the new equipment was just put in, that could be a huge deal.
We know that. And that's why we pulled it off the last time, because 2 days before your meeting 2 weeks ago, we were sitting with $2 million in flood for the arena. And Joanne wouldn't let me come to the meeting.
But so as it stands, it's a $30 million facility that we got $10 million worth of flood coverage. That's the best we can do, right?
Yes. Well, actually, we have 11 million. Well, 10.5.
Okay.
Because we have the $1 million for the National Flood Program, 10 million from here, and a $500,000 deductible.
Okay. Unfortunately, the building wouldn't be totaled anyway if there was a flood, so.
And have a hard time.
Wouldn't they do that co-insurance on that, though? If you only have it insured for a third the value, don't they reduce their damages by a third? No?
No, they can't, if that's all they'll write for you.
So the co-insurance wouldn't kick in?
No. It's not like saying we could have bought 30 million, but we only bought 10, so then you're going to get into that proration.
So they're on the hook for the full 10s? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I ask Wayne to come up and answer some questions about the flood elevations out there? I think that will help clarify some of this situation. And may I inquire him?
Yes.
First of all, the airport, when they changed the elevations on the Mississippi, they actually raised they lowered the flood. They lowered the elevations. So we're not as much at risk at the airport as we used to be.
That's correct.
But on the Missouri, it went the opposite direction.
Went up.
And the building that was built above the 100-year flood at the time is no longer now above the 100-year. Is that correct?
If I recall the maps, and remember my mind is getting older every day, but I think most of the arena is actually within the 500-year floodplain. It has 2 points, though, that are subject to very high floods. The entranceway, if you can envision, that arena is built on a mound, but the entranceway is lower. In fact, when you come down from the sidewalk, you actually go down a little bit of a grade to the front door. And the other weak link is the docking area in the back. So to the extent that you can close valves, Dave Hammond is familiar with these, close some valves and do a proper amount of sandbagging at those 2 weak points, you have a good chance of keeping the structure out of difficulty, as long as you don't get really substantial high floods. So it's not as bad as it may sound.
But it's worse than we thought, because we built the thing
It's worse
based
than we
upon
thought because-
one elevation, and now the Corps of Engineers has said, no, you're going to hit the 100-year flood a foot lower.
Right. On the Missouri River, depending upon where you're at, from St. Charles to the county line, it has increased from 1 to 4 feet, I believe, along that river. On the Mississippi, it's gone down 1 to 2 feet as far as the base flood elevation.
Any other questions for Wayne?
Yeah, I have a question. Just curiosity, for instance, on the insurance package and that, is there a loss of business policy for that family arena? So if, say, an event comes up and Missouri's flooding for 3 weeks and 4 or 5 major shows get canceled, does the county be reimbursed for some of that?
Yes, we do have a business interruption policy in there. All right. And just to add to what Wayne said about the building, but we also have to consider that parking lot out there if we get flood, unless he's going to sandbag all around that parking lot, I don't know. Yeah. But we could stand to lose substantially there with the lights and the blacktop itself.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I need a motion to approve the 2 items that had been removed from the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So approved. Okay, next on the agenda here is Resolution 13-03.
Resolution 13-03, sponsored by Joe Cronin and Joe Brazel, a resolution opposing passage of Senate Bill 241 and House Bill 345, now before the General Assembly of the State of Missouri, because the proposed bills impose practical difficulties on the application of local zoning regulations to telecommunication towers.
Okay. Questions and comments on this resolution?
I'd like to make a couple of comments. On this bill, this is a perfect example of state government interfering with being a big brother to local government. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. I realize that there's a lot of big lobbyists in Jeff City to push around a lot of money, but unfortunately, I can't see any good in this bill. This virtually takes the governing power away from counties and cities on cellular towers. We have no jurisdiction if this is passed. And the thing about it is I thought this bill was so foolish that I really wasn't following it. And then I got a call from a Lake St. Louis alderman, and he was concerned about it. So I had Harold Ellis look into it, and apparently it's been passing the committees, and it goes to the House tomorrow, I believe, on the floor for discussion. And so it's a big concern of mine. And I know that sometimes passing these resolutions, does it really do anything? Well, maybe, maybe not. But at least if we try to do something, and something may happen or something may not happen, but I'd rather do nothing. I don't want to do nothing. So that's why I think this is important. I mean, can you imagine if the state passes this law, they can pretty much, we can't fit the window. If it's a time frame, it crunches everything down. It's so restrictive that we would lose the planning and zoning process. We'd lose our process through posting it. We can't fit into that time zone. So basically, we would not have any jurisdiction over cellular towers if this law goes through.
Any other comments?
Joe. I'd like to echo what Mr. Brazel said, but additionally, I guess I have a little different perspective. The Missouri Municipal League has spoke out very strongly against this because they feel it takes local control away from something that is already subject to national laws. In my district alone, cell towers right next to residential districts and subdivisions in the Wentzville area have been a big issue. And I think one thing that's important about this, I don't know how much our state reps will be reading this stuff, and I feel sorry for those folks for all that rich food and drink that's paid for by the lobbyists. Kind of affects their memories. But I had to throw that in there. But I tell you one thing it does is this resolution shows a leadership role from county government, and we can take this same resolution. I will be passing it on to every city in my district, from St. Peter's to Forestell, and asking them to send similar resolutions on to their state representatives, because the fact that it's stripping local control over an issue that needs to be local. Whether or not that cell phone tower's need for the community outweighs the inconvenience those people have that when they open the door and they see a tower in their front yard. So I'm supportive of this, and I thank Vicki Huseman for all the work she did trying to lobby for the county against this bill in the last 3-4 months.
Joe? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I've been informed that the chairman of the committee that passed this out twice is a former member of your group.
Is that correct?
Doug?
Okay.
Yeah. Can I ask Wayne to? Wayne, our lobbyists have been instructed to oppose this bill since it was first introduced. Can you just briefly, our biggest concern is constricting the time, right?
Well, I think that's...
And any other concerns we have.
That's one aspect of it. Depending upon when you submit an application to go through the process, it takes anywhere from 80 days if you submit it at the deadline to 107 days if you submit it right after you miss the deadline to apply. That gives no commission and no council the ability to defer or table the agenda to look more into details. It all has to go through with no delays. The other aspect of the bill, which I find more disturbing than the time frame, is that we will be left with a process which you will have no legitimate ability to say no to. You will not be able to deny an application because they've stripped all of the ability to examine the locations and whether there's gaps in coverage away.
Can I ask a question? So can you give me a practical, for example, if something was proposed, how this would work?
A company, a lot of times it's not the antenna people themselves, but a tower company will make an application for a conditional use permit to erect a tower of a certain height. That application is reviewed for completeness, and then it is set for a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Zoning Commission conducts their hearing, and that recommendation, along with a staff recommendation, is forwarded to the county council. And the county council will review that and then say yea or nay to the application. One of the things that we've examined before and talked about in some of these applications is the tower folks can almost tell you anything because it's very technical stuff that they're laying out. But we have a chance to be able to dispute that if we hire the necessary folks to be able to examine it and critique it. With this law, you won't be able to do that. It will be basically left with a process which the answer has got to be yay for the tower. In fact, at that point, I really question whether we should even go through all of that process for nothing, because we're just misleading the public that there is anything that a county council or a commission or a staff or a county executive can say about the topic.
You know, another issue with this, I think, I haven't read the latest version of this bill, but it prohibits cities and counties from establishing bonding costs for the takedown of the tower, okay? So we could not propose a rule to say when this technology becomes obsolete, who's responsible for taking that tower down when it becomes a jeopardy to the people around it? And that was something we had discussed prior. Joe had been working, and I've been talking to Harold Hells about rework on our telecom law. I think that's something we need to do to protect us, because if not, yours truly, county government's going to be taking those down. So if I understand right, that bill would prevent it from enacting regulations like that, or any type of regulation regarding those cell towers. It's pretty much they get whatever they want, wherever they want, and I think that's a sad situation.
I didn't lock on to that.
Okay.
I think I was so disturbed by the
bill?
other portions of this, I may never have gotten to that piece.
Well, I mean, this bill to me is outrageous. I mean, this is just the audacity of the state to think that this is even an option is totally ridiculous to me. I just don't get it. I can't see any benefit to your constituents on this if this were to go through.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think, too, that you should be aware, two of the provisions that we've been most concerned about in this bill, under the current analysis, we have to at least have an application that's complete and that's fully filled out before we have to act and before deadlines start to be imposed. This removes the requirement that it actually be a complete application, so we may find ourselves having to act within 90 days with only part of the information we need to begin with. And perhaps most disturbing in this entire bill is that it strips out the gaps analysis coverage that's allowed to us by the Federal Act. So before, somebody came to us and wanted to put a tower in spot A, and, well within the area that spot A would cover, there's already a spot B, and they could rent space on that. They no longer have to do that. They no longer have to show that there's a gap in coverage that can't be somehow or other covered by another tower before they get to build the new one. So that's very disturbing as well, because that's the whole basis of not overbuilding.
All right, I think we're prepared to vote on resolution, what is this resolution? 13-03.
A resolution opposing passage of Senate Bill 241 and House Bill 345, now before the General Assembly of the State of Missouri, because the proposed bills impose practical difficulties on the application of local zoning regulations to telecommunications towers. Councilmember Cronin.
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember Elam.
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I hope this sends a strong message to our legislators that we at the council and our constituents are very concerned about this issue, and see where it goes. Next is bills for final passage. First of all, we have bill number 3957.
Bill number 3957, an ordinance accepting plans and specifications, ordering the improvements be made, setting forth the proposed assessment roll, and authorizing interim financing for the road improvements for the Rose Hill Estates Road Neighborhood Improvement District.
Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance accepting plans and specifications, ordering the improvements be made, setting forth the proposed assessment roll, and authorizing interim financing for the road improvements for the Rose Hill Estates Road Neighborhood Improvement District. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Okay. Bill 3957 passes. Next is Bill 3958.
Bill number 3958, an ordinance accepting plans and specifications, ordering the improvements be made, setting forth the proposed assessment roll, and authorizing interim financing for the road improvements for the Ellerman Oaks Road Neighborhood Improvement District.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance accepting plans and specifications, ordering the improvements be made, setting forth the proposed assessment roll, and authorizing interim financing for the road improvements for the Ellerman Oaks Road Neighborhood Improvement District. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Okay, Bill 3958 passes. Next is Bill number 3959.
Bill number 3959, an ordinance establishing new traffic regulations and establishing penalties for violations thereof.
Okay. Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance establishing new traffic regulations and establishing penalties for violations thereof. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Okay, Bill number 3959 passes. Next is Bill 3960.
Bill number 3960, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a memorandum of understanding in conjunction with the Core Public Health Functions Contract for fiscal year 2012 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for services to residents of St. Charles County and receipt of funds across fiscal years 2012 through 2015.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a memorandum of understanding in conjunction with the Core Public Health Functions Contract for fiscal year 2012 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for services to residents of St. Charles County and receipt of funds across fiscal years 2012 through 2015. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes. Bill number 3960 passes. Now Bill number 3961.
Bill number 3961, an ordinance granting permission for the continued short-term use of public streets, roads, highways, and public places in St. Charles County for the purpose of furnishing electric and gas power and energy to county residents.
Okay, questions or comments on Bill number 3961? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance granting permission for the continued short-term use of public streets, roads, highways, and public places in St. Charles County for the purpose of furnishing electric and gas power and energy to county residents. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Okay. There are no tabled bills, so are there any announcements or miscellaneous that we need to cover? County Executive.
Mr. Chairman, three things. First of all, I'd like to welcome Julie Eckstein as our new Director of Health, and we're really looking forward to working with her. And as you saw on our information, she's got a wealth of experience. She's very familiar with the county, and just looking forward to working with her. So, welcome. Secondly, if you haven't heard, Bob Schnurr went to the doctor and found out he needed bypass surgery, and he got it, and he's home, and he's doing well. Getting any updates on that, Joanne?
He is doing well. He may be doing a mite too well. I think he's probably supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and he's trying to get a laptop at home, but he'll need a doctor's note for that. And if he's watching now, he's just finding that out. He's a little bit too much of a team player. He's willing to play hurt, but we're gonna protect him from himself.
Okay.
And finally, we're very proud of Jennifer, who found out last week that she passed the bar. And will be sworn in by Judge Snyder on Friday. So,
That's
Jennifer
awesome.
George Esquire.
That is awesome.
There was never any doubt.
Never. Any other announcements? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Today's